For years, the world has watched the trade war between the United States and China unfold, a grinding conflict fought with tariffs, sanctions, and political rhetoric. But this week, that conflict didn't just escalate. It fundamentally changed. It moved from a battle over manufactured goods to a high-stakes war over the very elements that power our modern world. The catalyst. A single, calculated move by Beijing. The imposition of sweeping new export controls on rare earth minerals. Why now? Analysts suggest it is a calculated power play ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC summit in South Korea later this month, where Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping were slated to meet. After 6 months of relatively smooth sailing in US-China relations, think stabilized tariffs and some diplomatic thawing, Beijing's move feels like a sudden U-turn. Trump speculated on the timing, noting it coincided with a historic peace deal in the Middle East, brokered under his watch. I wonder if that timing was coincidental. He posted on Truth Social. In a plot twist that could rival a geopolitical novel, this announcement drops just as the world celebrates a breakthrough in one conflict zone, only to ignite tensions in another. The response from Washington was immediate, and for many, shocking. President Donald Trump announced a staggering 100% additional tariff on virtually all Chinese imports, effective November 1st. This is no longer just a trade dispute. This is a strategic confrontation over the global supply chain, a test of economic wills, and a dangerous new chapter in the geopolitical rivalry between the world's two largest economies. The question is no longer if the trade war will hurt, but how deeply this new, resource-driven conflict will cut into the global economy, and who will ultimately pay the price. To understand the gravity of China's move, we must first understand what rare earths are, and why they are so indispensable. The term rare earths is a bit of a misnomer. These 17 elements are not particularly rare in the Earth's crust, but they are rarely found in concentrations high enough to be economically mined. They are the hidden ingredients in nearly every piece of advanced technology you use. They are the reason your smartphone vibrates, the reason your electric vehicle battery is efficient, and the reason a precision-guided missile can hit its target. They are the essential components in everything from medical imaging to wind turbines, and critically, in advanced defense systems. And here is the critical choke point. China controls the vast majority of the global supply chain. While the US and other nations have some reserves, China has spent decades dominating the mining and, more importantly, the processing and refining of these minerals. Currently, China supplies approximately 70% of the world's rare earth minerals. This dominance is not just about volume. It's about the complex, often environmentally damaging, industrial capacity required to turn raw ore into usable, high-purity metals. For years, this has been China's ace in the hole, a strategic vulnerability for the West that has largely been ignored. Now, Beijing has decided to play that hand. China's new export controls, announced by the Ministry of Commerce, are surgical and far-reaching. Starting December 1st, foreign entities must obtain a special license to export products that contain even a trace amount, specifically more than 0.1% of Chinese-sourced rare earths. This also applies to products manufactured using Chinese refining or magnet-making technology. This is a masterstroke of economic warfare. It's not just a ban on the raw materials. It's an attempt to control the entire downstream supply chain. Imagine a German automaker that uses a high-performance magnet in its electric car. If that magnet contains even a tiny fraction of Chinese rare earth, the entire car, or at least the magnet, could be subject to export licensing. The immediate effect is a massive wave of uncertainty across global manufacturing. Companies that rely on these materials, from Silicon Valley tech giants to European defense contractors, are now facing a potential supply crisis. This move is a clear message from Beijing. If you challenge us on trade, we will challenge your industrial foundation. The timing is also crucial. It comes as the US is heavily investing in its own domestic semiconductor and clean energy industries, both of which are heavily reliant on these minerals. China is essentially attempting to slow-walk America's technological independence, holding the world's high-tech sector captive to its political will. However, China isn't the first to weaponize resources. Remember when the US blacklisted Chinese firms or imposed its own export curbs on advanced chips? It's the same playbook, just flipped. If we're judging by consistent standards, both sides are playing hardball to protect their tech edges, but the fallout hits global consumers hardest. The US response, delivered via a post on Truth Social, was a classic piece of Trumpian brinkmanship. The president called China's action extraordinarily aggressive and a moral disgrace. His countermeasure is an economic weapon of mass destruction, an additional 100% tariff on Chinese imports, layered on top of the existing duties. To put this into perspective, the current effective tariff rate on Chinese goods is already around 40%. Adding another 100% means that many Chinese products entering the US will now face total tariffs of 140% or more. This is a level of protectionism unseen in modern global trade, designed not just to punish, but to effectively shut down the flow of goods from China. The economic fallout is predictable, yet devastating. While the stated goal is to force China to back down, the immediate burden will fall on American consumers and businesses. Tariffs are essentially a tax paid by the importer, which is then almost always passed on to the consumer. This move threatens to unleash a new wave of inflation, driving up the cost of everything from electronics to clothing, just as the global economy is trying to stabilize. Furthermore, President Trump also announced export controls on any and all critical software. While the specifics are vague, this move suggests a further decoupling of the US and Chinese tech ecosystems, potentially forcing American companies to choose between their Chinese operations and their access to critical US software tools. It's a move that targets the very digital infrastructure of global business. The rare earth gambit and the 100% tariff are not isolated incidents. They are the latest, most dangerous salvos in a long-running strategic rivalry. This new phase is defined by a willingness to use strategic resources and unprecedented economic penalties as weapons. The principle of fairness demands that we acknowledge the strategic logic on both sides. China is using its resource advantage to retaliate against what it views as American aggression and technological containment. The US is using its economic leverage to counter a perceived threat to its national security and industrial base. Both nations are acting to protect their perceived self-interest, but the collateral damage is immense. The global supply chain, already fragile, is now under extreme stress. Companies will be forced to accelerate their efforts to de-risk and diversify away from China, a process that is costly, slow, and ultimately inflationary. The world is moving toward a bifurcated economic system, where geopolitical alignment dictates trade and technology access. This is the new reality of the US-China relationship, a cycle of action and reaction, where each move is more extreme than the last. The rare earth minerals that power our future have become the flashpoint of our present. And as the two giants trade blows, the rest of the world can only brace for the inevitable and costly fallout.